And back on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, as I mentioned, Jordan and Raleigh had a question about Joe Burrow. It says, hey, Mary Kay, are there any major differences you see between Joe Burrow and Jared Goff and Carson Wentz? Goff and Wentz thrived in their second and third years and then fell off a cliff. What is it about Burrow that convinces people he won't suffer the same fate? I think Jordan is looking at the AFC North and crossing his fingers that maybe the Bengals have a Carson Wentz or Jared Goff situation. I don't see it. What do you think is different about Burrow?
Well, I think he has amazing instincts, and I think he's got really, really great vision. And I think he does have that cerebral aspect of the game down. I think he can be mobile when he needs to be. I think he knows when to take off and run. I think he is extremely accurate. He was number one in the NFL this year with a over 70% completion percentage. His rating was 108.3, which was number two in the NFL. But like you said, our defense is going to figure him out. They're certainly going to try. They will try. I mean, the Bengals found a way to beat Patrick Mahomes. So when you get really good defensive minds on the job, you can pick things apart a little bit. But I don't know. It seems to me like Joe's got what it takes, and I don't see him dropping off or falling off anytime soon. I think the Bengals are really onto something with him.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a weird, silly thing, but I just think Joe Burrow is different.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's one of those guys. You look what he did at LSU, and then arriving to Cincinnati in the year he was having before he got hurt, and then this year, there's something different about him. Like, he is just, there are more talented quarterbacks than him. This is probably why people are already making the way too early Tom Brady comparison. But like, there are more talented quarterbacks than him, like Justin Herbert, same draft class, probably more talented than Joe Burrow. But there's something different about Burrow. And maybe that changes in the next 4 or 5 years. But right now, it just feels like this guy's just different. He's just built a little different.
Yeah, you know what? I think so too. And I was on the Zoom with him today. It's Monday as we're taping this. And I listened to his Zoom from the Super Bowl. And I'll tell you what, he has got the leadership qualities that you need at that quarterback position. And I think that's so vitally important. He understands how to bring the whole entire locker room together. He talked a lot about that. He talked a lot about, just being able to sit down with anybody on that team and talk to them for 10 minutes. I think he's a unifying force on that football team in that locker room. And then he also has the gamer aspect. He's got the it factor. He is a gamer. He gets that look in his eyes. And, I do almost see some of that Tom Brady mentality a little bit. There's just something about them. There's a confidence and there's a leadership that says, and it's mature, positive leadership where I'm going to get the job done.
So this is probably a discussion to put a pin in for like April, but I heard an interview with, I think it was Sam Hubbard last week, and he mentioned that the Bengals and kind of how close they are and this bond they have kind of started when you went all the way back to OTAs. Mm-hmm. He's like, everybody showed up for OTAs last year, right? And we all remember how crazy last year was around OTAs. Like, nobody was doing that. Mm-hmm. One of the guys who was there was Joe Burrow coming off this injury. Like, he shows up for OTAs. They had full mandatory attendance. I mean, the discussion about the importance of OTAs is probably a whole other podcast unto itself, but it kind of is little things like that. Like, Joe Burrow didn't have to be there, and he didn't have an excuse. I mean, he had an excuse to not be there, right? He's rehabbing this injury. Like, who wants to go? It's not like Cincinnati has these amazing facilities. Who wants to go spend time in Cincinnati when it's beautiful weather outside and you can go rehab someplace else? But I think little things like that too kind of matter. And him showing up and being there, even though he probably didn't have to be, that helps. And that's a little leadership thing that stands out, I guess.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, for him to talk today all about, he was the one talking about the culture and changing the culture and bringing in the right type of people. And those are things that you usually hear from a coach, but here it was the quarterback talking about this culture change and how it just was the most important thing to them to have that unity on the football team. And he also said he believes that the quarterback sets the tone for the culture of the football team. It was a very, very mature discussion today that he had on that Zoom about all of that stuff. And I think that that's a major reason why they are in the Super Bowl, because of that unity, because of his positive leadership, and them all following his lead. And you contrast that to Browns players leaving here after their exit interviews, telling us that there was a division between the offense and the defense. I mean, that right there, you're not going to get anywhere if you have that. I mean, if you are not performing as one and like-minded and all together and in this together, you're not going to get to the Super Bowl. So I think that's vitally important.